I'm delighted to welcome you to our next session, which is a fascinating subject. Uh, we're pleased to welcome Chetan Arora, Director of Natwest Group, and Chetan's talking about democratizing test automation by using low-code automation techniques. And low-code's one of those subjects that conference organisers we're finding is coming up more and more in the discussion with our events and research in general. So it's a really hot topic right now. I'm particularly looking forward to Chetan's presentation. And just again, if you have any questions, please type them in at the end. We'll try and answer as many as possible. And just a very quick reminder, if you can, through the day, please keep filling out the response form. That would be much appreciated. So, Chetan, I will hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. So, okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Today's session topic is democratization of test automation. What it essentially means is how do we make test automation accessible for everyone in the value chain? And one of the techniques today we are going to discuss today is around the low code test automation. If you hear statements like automation first, in sprint automation, or automation resources are hard to find, and you have challenges with running automation across multiple devices, then you may find this session useful as we will be discussing some of the techniques to mitigate the challenges that you see. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Chetan Arora. I work for Natwest Bank, where I head the testing, innovation, and optimization function within the Quality Center of Excellence. My function is primarily responsible for collecting testing problems across the enterprise, solving it through technology. As for me, I started as a software developer, got transitioned into test automation and performance testing. So my love for coding is quite natural, but still I would talk today about why coding is not so necessary to build great applications or develop great test automations. For a minute, let's step back and understand the problem today that we are trying to address. If you think about the manual test cases, these are a set of steps written to test a business behavior or a set of requirements for a business application. These are usually developed by people who have extensive or the plethora of knowledge in terms of domain, in terms of functionality, but may not have the extensive programming skills. As it involves humans or the manual process, it is quite resource and time intensive and may also lead to human errors. The other form of testing which came last maybe about 15-20 years back was around the script based automation. The script based automation took the manual test cases, converted into set of automated test cases which can be executed multiple times in a day in a release. And since this was executed automatically, it was quite time and resource efficient. However, the challenge with script-based automation is that it needs people with specific programming skills like Selenium, Java, Python, Visual Basic, C Sharp, and the development of these script-based automated test cases involved a high degree of initial upfront effort. However, you could save that when you execute it more often. So the current process of the automation is that you look at a manual test case, convert it into feature files, and then feature files are then converted into automated scripts. This multi-stage process is quite time consuming, both in terms of creation and maintenance. So today we are looking at a yet another form of automation which addresses some of the challenges in the current script-based automation, which is around scriptless automation. So, given that it has a word automation in it, it saves time and resources. It offers more or less the same execution benefits as a script-based automation, but here the need for this people with low or no programming skills can use this form of automation to develop automation. The initial effort to develop automation gets reduced significantly, and that is why we believe that scriptless automation is the way to go in this year. So, at this point, we agree that there is worth exploring the new form of automation, which we are calling as scriptless. And just to be clear, scriptless, codeless, low code are more or less the same thing, and they are all pointing towards a journey where we can make automation accessible for everyone. Now, why do we need to address it today? And that is where I looked at few of the surveys and few of the material available on the internet. And there are three key matrices which I found could be useful to understand. There's a survey done by Perfecto. So in the survey, we found that 77% of the respondents believe that automated software testing is what they are looking in their enterprises for this year. And the challenges they are facing is the lack of resources for test automation. And when it comes to which frameworks they want to use for automation, it is clear that 39% says that it's largely around codeless, low code solutions is where they will be looking for this year. So it's quite clear that low code is a way to go. Now, what is low code? Low code, there are a number of low code platforms available in the market for development and for testing, but we will talk about three key characteristics which is more or less common across these platforms. The first is these platforms usually offer a visual approach. What that means is you could create a flowchart type of a test case or a application. Then it does not involve high degree of programming skills, so people with low or little programming skills can do it. And finally, it leads to accelerated delivery of outcomes. Now, I'm not sure if it's readable or not, but just to give you a scenario, we looked at a hypothetical scenario where we opened an Amazon website and we selected a book and added it to the cart. Now, on your left-hand side of the screen, you would see the Selenium code, which is quite extensive, and had number of lines, and some of it may be difficult for people with non-programming background to understand. On your right-hand side, you see an equivalent low-code automated test case. Both of them produces the same output, which is an automated test case that can be executed repeatedly and often. Now, if you look at this, so you just open a website, you just enter the book name, then there is a page title for comparison as a verification checkpoint. Then you click on search button, click on book name, and then you add to the cart. And that's all. These blocks are just the usual flowchart type boxes. They have the underlying configuration setting underneath it. But these are all configuration. There's absolutely not even a single line of code involved in such a kind of test automation. Now, number of low code platforms available, and they all have more or less the similar kind of structure. The names may be different, but the underlying architecture is more or less the same. So what are these components within the typical low code platform? So the first component is the studio. It is a whiteboard, automation canvas, integrated development environment, whatever we call it. It offers the opportunity to create this pictorial view or the automated test cases. These are then published into Orchestrator. Orchestrator acts as a repo for all the automations. These orchestrators are connected to number of virtual workers or robots, which picks up the automation that was designed in the studio and execute it multiple times as much as you need, both in attended and unattended way. The good thing about robots is that unlike humans, they don't get tired and they don't get bored like us, and they can do a monotonous task anytime and as many times as you want. Now, I'm sure that some of my developer friends would be thinking that we have a studio for developing automations, orchestrator for controlling and managing executions, but the thing that matters in the current DevOps, Agile, CI/CD world is how do we integrate it as part of the toolchain. So most of the low-code platforms comes with the integration hub or the set of plugins that allow integrations with tool chains like Jenkins, TeamCity, Excel Release, and many other toolchain. They even offered an API-based connection. So if you want to use that API somewhere, you can use that API and you can execute it directly from the orchestrator. Now, so we had low code, we had Selenium, we had UFT, Silk, and Cypress, and so many tools in the market, right? Isn't that too confusing? And with low code coming in, does it make the ecosystem more complex than ever? So let's look at is there a complexity underneath it, or is there a more simplification of the thing? So I looked at three personas that are important in a release life cycle. And the three personas are one is the developer. Developers usually prefer to write code for many things. Test engineers are the people who look at some kind of IDE on which they can write some automated test cases, and they look more from a can they write a test case from a business context perspective? Can they integrate it with their existing Selenium or Java type functions? However, the business tester has a completely different take on it. They look at they have an intent to test a business process. They are concerned about can they test booking a book or ordering a book on an Amazon website. Can they test that business process? While developer is more focused towards toolchain integrations, test engineer looks for integrated development environments, and business tester looks for intent. But they all are looking for some kind of analytics, and analytics and insights are deep data points that helps them fine tune their testing, whether it is in terms of number of times the script was executed, the number of failures and the number of passes, and if it failed, why it failed, and where it failed, and so on and so forth. So that's one of the requirement from different personas, different requirements. But yes, we need to understand, can low code address these multi-channels? So nowadays applications are not just HTTP web-based applications. So we look at multi-channels and omni-channels, which means that application needs to be available accessible across a range of browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Safari. They may be mobile versions of the app, and they may offer API or third-party integrations for developing applications out of it. In all this journey, our developer friends are looking for more. Can they get some kind of a productivity in terms of enhancing productivity for development? A test engineer looks for, can they continuously execute the same set of test cases, while a business tester is looking for more of exploratory testing. Now, low code does not address all the requirements here, but it offers a broad range of solutions for some of the problem. So that is why we believe this ecosystem, which gets created by the tools like Selenium or UFT or Silk or Catalan, they still offer you that coding. Ways to code a test case, and that is where you will see a lot of developer people can get real benefits out of it. But where the boundaries get blurred is between the test engineer and the business tester. That is where I see that the low code quite picking up nicely there, and we will see more automations happening by test engineers and business tester using low code. Now, we already had too much of complexity in the automation with plethora of tools. Now, how do we simplify that, and what low code does to simplify that in particular? So, four things I see how low code can be beneficial for in terms of resolving the automation complexity. First is everybody in the value chain gets involved, from the business tester to system tester to developers. They all can use it, and and if they can develop automations quickly, it will lead to faster quality outcome. We talked about applications available across broad range of technologies, whether it's a vendor package, whether it's a product, whether it's a SaaS, mainframe, Java-based applications, and databases. Now, most of the low-code tools offer tech support for a variety of technology and variety of test execution environment through its connections with providers like Sauce Labs and Browser Stack, where the same app test case can be executed across a range of browsers and and devices. The third thing is where the low code is heading towards nowadays is around they are all expanding the cognitive ability and building more autonomous solutions. And that is where the maintenance overhead gets significantly reduced when we will see a lot of cognitive ability or the AI ML type stuff coming in with these platforms. And finally, which is my favorite, is if you can develop a test automation, because ultimately you're testing a business process and it is stable enough, resilient enough, then there's a merit of putting that same test automation, a subset of that test automation, into production, because it is resilient, it is proven, and it solves the problem of operational overheads. And that's where the boundaries between the test automation and RPA starts merging. So that was all for the session today. Hopefully you would have find it useful, but I leave you with a couple of thoughts. So automation to me is always a team sport. If an individual does it, it will only encourage the superhero culture in the team. And if you don't automate, you will test less. And if you test less, we will incur some kind of a technical debt within our applications. Thank you for your time today. Hopefully, you would have found it useful. You would have got some pointers, you would have got some thoughts which you can take back to your teams and make testing more efficient. Due to the paucity of time, we will try to answer as many questions as possible. But in case if it is still unanswered, you can always reach out to me at the email address mentioned below. Thank you. We can now open it for Q&A.
Thank you, Chetan. So I can see there's lots of questions coming in already. So would you like to read them out, or would you like me to read them?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay. So I think that the
Okay,
first.
I can.
Oh, you've got them. Perfect.
Yeah, I can answer. Thanks.
Okay.
So the first question is: can you build complex enterprise level applications without coding? Yes, we can. The thing about, if you look at how application development has changed, instead of having one monolithic applications, we are seeing a trend towards more micro applications, more web services, or more API based applications. And that is where, if you decompose an entire enterprise level applications and build it into smaller chunks, so that is where the low code will become powerful. What is the linkage between low code development and automation? I think that's an extremely interesting question, and thank you for asking it. So the low code development provide a way to create applications quickly and fastly. If we do just a low code development, then the problem is we may develop an application in a week, and the traditional form of automation will take another 2 weeks to test it. So the efficiency gains that we have got using a low code development may not be passed on to automation. And that is where I see that low code automation could be a key factor there to simplify the overall, or not simplify, but accelerate the overall delivery of the outcome for the end customer. Just to be clear, there are a number of low code platforms which are entering into low code test automation as well. because then they will be able to offer the package together between low code and development and automation together for the users. Which tools will suggest a market leader in low code? Okay. So, uh, although I never wanted to name a tool, but since you asked it, I will do that. So, there are many tools, and when you look at the entire set of low code tools for test automation, there are two things which are happening in the market. Some of the RPA vendors are expanding their scope and entering into low code automation. For example, UiPath. And the second side of the world is that there are some testing tools vendor which are getting into RPA space. For example, Appian, right, or Leapwork, right. Now it depends on number of things before you make that choice. What kind of technology stack you are looking at? Because some tools are good just with the web side of the stuff, but not with the mainframe or the legacy technology stack. So if that is your requirement, then probably UiPath could be a more stable or a resilient choice. Then second thing you should consider is there because most of the enterprises have some kind of a RPA stuff in it, is there an existing RPA vendor that also offers the test automation capability? Can we use that? Some cases it could be UiPath, some cases it could be Blue Prism, or if they offer the similar capacity, why can't we you just use that for test automation as well? And the third is we need to look at what are their future strategy is, because low code test automation is just a first step in probably the journey of democratization of test automation. It is not the last step, right? We still have to see, and I'm sure we will see it shortly, most of the testing happening with intent, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, and that is where you need to be understand the strategy for these product vendors. I'm sorry if that was a long answer, but I just want to share my thoughts, some insights on the future of low code or no code. I think it is here to stay. There is absolutely no reason uh, why these things will not exist, because just that these will become mainstream going forward, and we will see a lot of cognitive ability being pushed onto these platforms, which will make them indispensable for test automation. But if your question is, does it really replaces tools like Selenium or Cypress or Protractor? It won't, right? I think maybe in future, but not for now. What technical expertise are required to excel in low code? Okay, so like any other product, the good thing about and like any other product, you would need some kind of initial handholding, initial couple of weeks, just play with that environment or play with that tool to understand how it works, and then you could build up. The good thing about low code is it does not involve you to come from a programming background. You could be a good business analyst, you could be a good manual tester, and you could just take a platform, start with it. It's all the set of configurable things, but that does not mean that anybody who has a programming skills or come from a Selenium background, they cannot use it. They can use it. Most of the platforms are offering low code and not the no code. And just to highlight what's the difference between low code and no code, low code platforms offer some kind of integrations where you could use your existing code, a Java code or a Python code, you could call that function, and most of the tools give you that ability. Or for example, if you have to do a API testing, you would still need some kind of a programming understanding to do that API testing. But I'm sure there would be a day in future where you could do a no code, but for now we'll have to live with low code. um, can we parameterize the low code? Also, can we use it for functional testing involves which involves graphs and chart? So I'll have to take So can we parameterize the low code platforms? Yes, you could have parameterize, you could parameterize the variables using variables, arguments, any kind of data sources, whether that is coming from Excels, whether that is coming from databases, you could do that. Can you test using graphs and charts? Yes, you can do it. And in fact, for PDF comparisons, there is a lot of activities and sequences onto the low code platforms where you could do the PDF comparisons and all. Can low code test automation be used to test APIs? Absolutely, you can do that. And in fact, it's quite easy to test an API. What is the difference between low code, no code, and RPA? I think I already covered it. But low code means that you have the ability to create application, or you have the ability to test an application without coding, but at the same time it offers you the ability to integrate or do some complex technical bits by offering you some kind of integration for coding. No code, absolutely no coding required. I still have to see a platform where you could do a no code without any single line of code. The platforms are not designed, are mostly designed towards low code, right? And low code, no code is used interchangeably. RPA, the difference between test automation and RPA is the biggest differences around the resiliency. I'm sure somebody would say that okay, the test automation runs in the test environments, RPA runs in the production environment, but it is around resiliency. So the RPA processes are more adjusted towards running into production multiple times, and they are able to recover and produce number of interesting report, while test is about how quickly you can create it and execute it, and you don't worry so much about resiliency. Will low code replace traditional engineering? Only time can tell. I can't forecast at the moment, but what I can certainly say is we will see this low code revolution coming in. And if I have to believe in a Microsoft forecast, and it clearly says that 25% of the software development that is happening today will get converted into low code by 2025. But we all will see the future. Does low-code automation provide same kind of benefits, results, framework, model, reusability? Yes. And that is where I think the real benefit of low-code is. Low-code automation. So right now, and I was asked this question by someone, that I have a set of the testing teams are usually in hybrid team. You have a set of manual testers and you have a set of automation testers who are very comfortable with Selenium and frameworks, and they're good in Selenium, right? So what is the benefit for them? The thing about Selenium or any other tool for that is it involves a high maintenance effort, whether it is framework development, whether it is script development and maintenance. It involves effort, right? Now, when you put a solution like low code, it offers benefit for everybody in the team, and that is the real democratization. Manual testers will find it easy to automate, no questions asked. Now, for automation testers, they will see the benefits or the speed at which they can develop scripts, or the maintenance efforts get reduced for them. Slowly, they will start transitioning into low code platforms, and they could do more complex automation by the time that is saved from Selenium over low code. How difficult would it be to get a feature request address in depends on vendor would be interesting to know. Okay, that's a really good question. So the way I see these low codes are working is it's a ecosystem. You can use an existing activity or a sequence available within the platform. You can even create your own sequence or activity which you can make expose it for anybody to use it or expose it locally, right? So these platforms offer that capability so that you can design your I'm not saying it's exactly similar to keywords in some of the languages but functions, but it is a kind of activity which you could host centrally within your platform and make it available to everybody. Would
Thank you.
load self healing, and this is I don't know how much time do we have, Alex?
We're actually, apologies, we're just out of time now. I think we've got just a few seconds before the next session. It's
Okay.
certainly been very thought-provoking. I think it's borne out by the number of questions. So that was great,
Mhm.
Chetan. Thank you. So I think
Okay.
we need
Thank you,
to end it
everyone.
then, move to
Mhm.
the next session. But thank you very much indeed. Great session. And will you be
Thanks.
around during the day if anybody would
Sure.
like to meet up in the lounge?
Sure, sure. I should be.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chetan. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. We'll see
Thanks.
you in the next
Thanks,
session.
guys. You all have a
Thanks.
wonderful day ahead.
Bye.